Continuing the series on the original Xbox, since the HD version of this game was included only in the Master Chief Collection, we're actually going to start this review with the game's ending because it's blatantly obvious that this game was developed after Bungie was told that they were getting leeway to make a whole trilogy instead of just a sequel, because the game ends in one of the most awful examples of endings ever witnessed. A slam-cut cliffhanger after a bunch of plot thickener that has been added to the story right at the end of the game. Video games are not movies, they're not goddamn TV shows. You have to finish the stories that you're telling with them, otherwise they end up looking this shallow and tawdry. That doesn't mean you can't have a sequel hook with a new threat rising after the final battle, but you can't have a game cut to black in the middle of the fight. Halo 2 should have ended with the death of Tartarus and some final exposition, and Halo 3 should have started with the plot thickening. Despite the ending, the narrative does bring some brass balls to the series by mainly focusing on the Covenant this round. Halo 2 is the bad type of sequel since the game essentially retells the story of Halo 1 again with all the names being replaced, because the conflict comes from the Covenant falling in on itself instead of the Flood breaking out. Well, the Flood are loose here, but no one really gives a shit about the personified apocalypse. The Covenant are beginning preparation for the Great Journey, a religious path that will bring them to heavenly salvation by lighting up Halo 5, and later the Covenant are split in half right before a civil war, as Halo's purpose becomes clear to the elites but not the brutes. It fills in a lot of the answers that we've been seeking as to why the Covenant are on this ridiculous self-destructive path through the Arbiter's part of the campaign, where he's witness to the Hierarch's incredible selfishness. Everything that happens in this game is specifically put in place for the Prophet of Truth to go on the Great Journey alone. The Council put Regret in charge of getting the Index, knowing that Master Chief knew about Halo, that he was on Halo 5, and would kill him definitely due to the elites failing to protect him because of the Halo 4 incident. Then he uses it as a pretext to replace the elites with the brutes in order to divide the Covenant into a civil war, distracting them from his real plan, and due to the brutes' lack of intelligence, he could easily betray them without them even realizing it. The Prophet of Mercy's death was kind of an accident, and finally Truth knew that the firing of Halo 5 would fail in the end, because ultimately the brutes are as useless as the elites at protecting stuff, and that the humans would have known when Halo 5 was firing so that he could stop them, and since he's assumedly heading towards the Ark at the end in order to finalize the Great Journey. While the Arbiter's campaign is a political thriller with a lot of substance to it, Master Chief ends up just running around just following orders like an early Call of Duty. Kill Regret, get Index, stop Halo, boom, credits. While not exactly the same game as Halo 1, Bungie did improve on a lot of the gameplay issues that game had with breaking up the action more so that it didn't dissolve into pointless corridor shooting again. It eliminated the health bar from the game so that both characters can take some damage before dropping dead. It improved the Ghost and Banshee's driving ability so they became actually useful, so we're no longer getting stuck in walls by turning a second too late. The only problem with the game is with the brutes, the new Covenant enemy, because these guys can tank a ton of bullets just like every enemy in Halo 1, and when they get down to around a third of their health, they enter a berserk state where they rush the player and punch them 7 times, and it still takes a bunch of damage to take them down, so most likely you'll get beaten to death. And the only weapon that can take them on is the Needler, and that's saying something that the only weapon that can kill them is the most obtuse one in the entire game. Overall, Halo 2 is a vast improvement over Halo 1, adding in a lot to the story with the campaign of the Arbiter getting to reveal why the Hierarchs are driving to the path of the Great Journey, a lot of the Covenant society of itself when the Civil War begins, and then there's the Gravemind, who is revealed to be the controlling intelligence of the Flood and has taken over Halo 5 to prevent the Flood's destruction, which worked to a mutual benefit when he convened a meeting of Master Chief and the Arbiter before he returned to his compulsion and asked Cortana where Earth is.
I will ask, and you will answer.
All right. Shoot. shoot.
Halo 2 was stuffed with a little too much plot for its own good, as Bungie used the game as a perfect opportunity to advertise the future game of Halo 3 for the buying public with that horrible cliffhanger ending. We'll see the demise of regret in later games, thankfully, but for next week we'll be looking at Halo 3 ODST, the spin-off set during Halo 2. So until then, let's wrap up with the usual doubleheader of the scoreboard. And a well-deserved victory for gamers.